r/AskReddit. Serious, what is a seemingly harmless parenting mistake that will majorly duck up a child later in life? The belief that they won't remember because they are young. I remember. Especially things that hold value to them. If you hurt them in any way they remember. Otherwise we wouldn't have this thread. Well, realistically, it'd be a helicopter parent. You always want to look out for your kid, right? Make sure they're not doing things they're supposed to do. Walk in without knocking. It ruins a relationship with a kid because even though you have a sense of privacy, the kid doesn't and will always paranoid of anyone entering their room without warning. It ruins a kid. Would my mom let me do this? Is she okay with it? My parents were helicopter parents. I was not allowed to lock my bedroom door. My mom listened in on my phone calls. This was in landline phone days. And went through my personal belongings when I wasn't home, including reading the notes that friends and I passed in school. I wasn't allowed to talk to boys or date. I'm female. Doing this only prevents your children from learning how to form healthy relationships. You should teach your children how to do things, such as date, in a safe and responsible manner, rather than ban it. Using them as props for jokes in public. Glad you got a kick out of it, Dad. Not following through with your promises. If you told your child you were buying ice cream tomorrow in the hopes that they'd forget and the next day when they ask you tell them no, they'll see you as unreliable. Ice cream is just the first thing that came to my mind. I'm sure someone else can explain better what I'm trying to say here without sounding so ridiculous. Mine is an extreme case, but my mom left me when I was around 3 and started a new family shortly after. My entire childhood was filled with I'll do's and she never would. She was most famous for I'll pick you up tomorrow or I'll be there in X minutes and just never show. She did this on my 5th birthday. I remember it so vividly. My dad got me up before dark. He got me all dressed, did my hair and took cute pictures with a little mermaid doll she had brought by a few days earlier. I was so excited. Then I went and sat on the front steps as the sun was coming up. I sat there all day long. I didn't want to move because I didn't want to miss her coming down the long driveway. Finally my dad's girlfriend told me it was nap time. 2 p.m. I said I couldn't take a nap. BC mom might come while I'm sleeping. The way she told me, honey, I'm sorry but I don't think she's coming today, just broke me. I still went and sat back on those steps. She never came. I still trust no one. I'll never forget that day. I worry I'll never be right after years of her doing things like that. It was like a moment ingrained in my head as when my heart broke and was never the same. Always do your best to do what you say for your kids. ETA. Thanks for the nice thoughts and silver and gold. In a weird way I feel a bit better. I never really talk with anyone about this but my husband. So it's cathartic to get it out. Thanks for listening. Best wishes to anyone else who's had to deal with this stuff. It's just hard. Words can't really express what it does to a person. Hopefully we can all find some peace one day. My mom was mad at me because of a 9/10 on a test. She hit me and yay it hurt a lot. I wrote her a letter tell her about it. How sorry I was. And I have tried my best. That the one point was about the grammar that I did not know. She told the entire family at our meeting, including my grandparents, all of my aunts and uncles, and they made jokes about that. Now, even though I am a senior at high school, they still talk about that at every family meeting we have. And she keeps asking me why I lock myself up in the room and live my own life and don't even try to talk to her. She and the family also tease me for having a boyfriend. She keeps calling me telling that she knows he does not love me and I'm going to get dumped. And more stereotypes that she has in her mind. Literally 1 year ago she and the family tried to bring me to the hospital for gender check because I keep watching soccer. LOL. Mocking them. Laughing at them. Adults do it to each other all the time. But kids who haven't been immersed in the background cruelty of our culture for years don't understand that it's just the language of the land. And not that they themselves are particularly unworthy of respect. I got laughed at and mocked a few times as a kid and that shit hurts a lot. There was one time I was trying to help a friend at their birthday by taking their presents to them, but all the adults and my parents thought I was being selfish and wanted them for myself and joked and laughed at me and just ignored me explaining myself and carried on. I think that hurt my self-esteem a lot in the long run. Treating your young child as a friend you're venting to. It's extremely traumatic to be your parent's diary. Never telling your child that you were wrong and that you're sorry just never once occurred. My father never once said I'm sorry to me. He was human. There were plenty of times he should have. My kids have heard from me plenty. Once my brother was sent to his room by my dad after they got into an argument about something stupid. I used Google to prove my brother right and we both were grounded for being disrespectful. Until he found out we were actually right, he never ungrounded us until the week was over and only told me he was wrong. Moral of the story: being right is disrespectful. Treating crying as if it's something only weak people do. My dad in particular used to yell at me for crying, which only made me cry more, which made him yell more, and you get the point. In high school I tried to bring up the possibility of me having anxiety problems that I'd spoken to the school counselor about because my friends made me go since they were worried. He told me I was just a drama queen. I can't express that I'm anxious or stressed around my dad because others have it worse. Even now I'm 21 and seeing a psychiatrist in a couple weeks because I've just felt so bad lately and I would never let my dad know. I think I'd rather die than my dad know I've been seeing a psychiatrist and discussing the possibility of me having OCD with said psychiatrist, which does explain a lot and is actually kind of comforting for me to know, because he'd get so mad at me for being weak. Not stopping when your child says stop, whether it's teasing, or tickling, or resting. Kids who have parents that don't respect their boundaries always seem to end up being the biggest dongs and bullies because they've learned they don't have to respect other people's feelings. If you qualify for food stamps, take the ducking food stamps. Do not make your kid live on macaroni and cheese made with water because we don't take handouts. Pride can be such a dangerous thing. The health, safety and well-being of your children should trump anyone's pride. I've watched multiple people destroy some of their most important relationships rather than sacrifice their pride. It's not worth it. Making them give physical affection when they don't want to. If Uncle Bob makes them uncomfortable, don't make them give him a hug. If Aunt Karen freaks them out, don't make them give her a kiss. Of course it's important that they be kind, but don't teach them that the feelings of others is more important than their bodily autonomy. Not creating a safe space for your kids to tell their secrets and make mistakes. When I was younger, I excitedly confided in my mom about my first boyfriend, but instead of calmly talking me through this, she immediately brought my dad in the conversation and they both yelled at me and forced me to break up with him. Telling them that the family members who are mean to them or neglect them, love them. Telling your kid they are always a winner. We love our kids and want them to feel special. But it's setting them up to be disappointed later in life when they find out not everyone can win. Let them feel the disappointments early on, and teach them it's okay. They'll grow up better able to handle the stresses of life. No discipline at all. I have a cousin who was always told they could do whatever they wanted in life and did not get into trouble at all despite some rough behaviors. 20 years later they are in therapy when they realized it was because they never really were disciplined in life. Cousin is getting over some past trauma. The saddest part of this question is that my mom had done so many things that everyone is saying is bad. Not hugging, praising, telling me to suck it up, etc. So let me give one that I feel would have helped me out growing up. Do not be afraid to admit when you are wrong or when you make mistakes to your child. My parents would go out of their way to justify any mistake they made and make it seem as if they were right no matter what the situation was. Gave me a pretty messed up view of right and wrong, as well as learning from mistakes, but was fixed by my grandma. It's a long story that I don't want to get into right now. Not giving them a factual and straightforward sex ed talk. My parents answered my questions truthfully and at an age appropriate level throughout my childhood, and I am extremely thankful for it. Others around me have clearly not been that lucky. Edit. Typo. To expand on this, it's important to have factual and straightforward conversations about most things. It's okay to say I don't know if you honestly don't know how to answer, but kids deserve to hear that their feelings and questions are valid. Giving in to your kids' wants and desires without upholding discipline and consequences will give your kids a large uphill battle to climb later. I say this BC my parents babied me a lot when I was young. I never had to do anything I didn't want to do. X when I started getting bad grades BC I wasn't doing my homework, my parents would have conferences with my teachers so they could give me extra credit. I had a rude awakening in college when I realized how hard life is. I 100% love and adore my parents. And who's to say if they did discipline me more that I'd have turned out any different? Probably not, but you never know. But when I have kids I already know a few things I'd do differently. Sticking through a toxic ducking relationship for the kids. It doesn't help. Part ways. Be good parents. Spend quality time together with the kids. But don't stay together and ducking hate your lives under the guise of it being for the kids. We pick up on your shit. It's a terrible example to set. Never saying sorry to your kids. My mom only just recently started telling me sorry when she gets worked up. It's built up such a resentment for her over the years. And I also have trouble saying sorry myself because of it. Tell your kids sorry, especially if you overreact to something they did. This is my mom too. Sometimes it feels like she would rather jump off a cliff before admitting she was wrong and apologize. I grew up in a very strict Asian household. My parents were very strict on the never wake us up policy. To this day I get very anxious and refuse to wake people up, in fear of being yelled at and locked in a closet. I'm 22 years old. I feel like most of these responses fall under seemingly harmful. A seemingly harmless mistake is rewarding your child with something when they do something they already enjoy. Take, for example, reading. If a child just enjoys reading, let the child read without giving any reward. Once you start rewarding the child for that act, their intrinsic motivation gets replaced. It's called the overjustification effect. Telling kids they have to finish their plate. Sometimes there's too much food. I was overeating for years and it took a lot of work to break the habit and shed the extra weight. Bro, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.